to the bonus level.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Bonus Level Podcast, and welcome to Level 44, where everything's going to be made up, and I am going to hand out points that don't matter.
Yummy.
And with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Josh, actually. Josh and Luch, of course, here this week. Josh had a nifty idea for a podcast, and that's what we're going to be doing this evening. And I want to make sure that we get off to a good start. So, Josh, why don't you tell our faithful listeners what we're going to be doing?
Yes. So this one kind of came to me by thinking a lot about myself and struggles that I've been going through for, past couple months and stuff like that, or just, seeing other people go through. Everyone by now should know that Jack is our fearless leader. That
Is that what it is?
I don't know what other word to use for it other than that. But basically,
alpha male.
I've known you the longest out of everybody, so that's why I wanted to be able to use you as an example, because I can pull from a lot of different stuff over the past so-and-so years that we've known each other. But really, I've seen so many different times that you've run into problems or had obstacles in your way, or something that didn't work out in the way that you wanted it to. And though you are infamous for raging on occasion, no one would ever say that you're the type of person that wallows in their own self-pity and, is stuck in the same place a month later, a year later, whatever. Like you always seem to, even if it makes you upset, you figure out a way around that obstacle and a way to not only come out of it, but typically come out the other side even better. Yeah. So what I would like to kind of discuss is some of the stuff. I don't know how far back you want to start with things, or if there's stuff going on recently that we could kind of talk about some of the, because there's so many times where I think that we kind of feel like we have it worse than everybody else. So I think it would be good to hear some of the different crap that's flying your way that you've had to deal with, and what different methods that you've chosen to overcome these different obstacles.
Sure. No, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the topic is interesting just in general, right? Because like you said, I'm pretty sure that all three of us can come up with things that we have to deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that are either directly related to our own actions, choices, but then other things that are out of our control that we just have to deal with. Bosses, circumstances, whatever it might be, unluckiness, all of that. So it's definitely a interesting topic, or like something to take a look at, because everybody handles adversity and stress and obstacles differently. And I think that it's a very big character point for each individual on how they do that. How you handle stress, how you handle adversity tells a lot about you as a person. Does challenges make you kind of ball up? Does it make you angry? Does it make you motivated? Right? Like everybody deals with it differently, but your ultimate outcome has a lot to do with that reaction. So before we even talk about any specifics or examples, I guess, I think it would be good to get an idea of how you guys, so we know where you're coming from, where you guys come from as far as dealing with stress, right? So Luch, whenever you're faced with a problem, and be honest, because it doesn't help to not be honest, what is your first reaction to stress or anxiety?
So wait, all right. So, okay, I'm kind of misunderstanding the question. Like just how I deal with stress and anxiety, or how do I handle a problem?
I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. What's your like gut reaction? Do you curl
I'm
up? Do you get angry?
So I bottle up everything inside. Type of
Okay.
And I'm the type of guy who gets upset at really pointless things that set me off. Right.
Okay.
So just really dumb stuff that sets me off. Unless it's something that gets me really heated. But like, yeah, if like something goes wrong with work, I just accept it, whether it's, complete BS, and I just hold those feelings inside and just get it done.
Okay.
I like, for instance, I've been working like 40 days now, open to close by myself with really minimal days off,
Right.
no help. And I've just accepted that as fact and bottle up the emotions I have inside. And if I become a serial killer, well, I mean,
that's the reason.
What it is.
Right. So, but bottling it up. So and you're self-admitting that that's your first reaction. So, and then
I tackle the problem at hand. Obviously.
Okay. So you have to deal with it. So you bottle it up, but for how long? Like, what is that process? How long does that process take?
Oh, I could do a while. I don't get mad often. I think like literally the last time I think I actually went off on somebody was probably like Jason that one time.
No, that doesn't even count. That was like barely even anything.
Yeah. I mean, the last time like I yelled at someone, I think was like, God, months ago.
Who did you yell at? Was it Jamie?
Yeah. And it was just like, but it was over something stupid that like doesn't even need to be. Like, I feel so bad because like if my wife like accidentally drops something, for some reason that's what gets me so irritated. Like if she like drops a glass like in the sink and I hear that sound, I'm just like,
oh my God. Okay.
and it's stupid, right? And I'm like, it's not you, it's me. Just bottle stuff up. It's the weird stuff that gets me set off.
I got you. Okay.
Well, this brings up a question that I'd like to get your input on, because I think we've all dealt with shitty situations at work that a lot of times like our natural, I guess kind of intuition is just to kind of bottle it up, deal with it. You're at work. This is the kind of shit you deal with at work. Like, this is why I get paid to be here and stuff like that. And then you just shut up and do your job. Like, at what point do you make that switch and go, all right, I've taken so much crap for so long. Like, this isn't worth it. I either need to speak up and stand up or do something. Like what would, I know it's a very open-ended question because it's every situation could be different, but I mean, I know that I've been that way with things where I just keep shut up and just keep putting my head down and working hard and stuff like that instead of actually going, okay, I've had enough. I need to do something.
So I have the perfect analogy. You guys ever have to fart, right? Mm-hmm. But you're in a public place, right? And you can't just fart out and let it go. And so what you do is you get up and you start to squeeze out little toots, right, along the path. You lay down your minefield, right, as you walk past your area. So what I kind of do is that. So, like, let's say something happens at work that really pisses me off, right? But I bottle it in. It's work. I got to accept the BS. But I'm a big road rager, right? So, like, even if someone does, like, the stupidest thing, even if it's something out of someone's control, like a red light, like, if I get stopped at a red light, it makes me furious. And I'll scream at the light.
Oh my!
Right, and
we're uncovering things here,
right? But again, I don't do it in front of anybody. I don't unless it's my wife and she's in the car with me. Then God bless her because she's still with me.
But I feel like this is a way to like release your rage. But I don't feel like that any of that fixes any of the problem that caused the rage to begin with at work. That's what I'm curious of.
I would already have fixed that issue. Like it's something that's work. It's long gone. I can bottle stuff up for months. And then I release little bits of rage throughout the week, right? So video games, I'm a huge video game rager, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one way for me to release my anger and road rage. And then, I mean, that's pretty much the biggest things.
All right. So the moral of the story here is that you're the one that needs to benefit from this talk. I think that you're the one that
I'm
can
doing
benefit
great.
the most.
I'm
I think
happy.
we all can.
Listen,
That's why I wanted to have this conversation.
I want to just put it out there right away so everybody knows my feelings. Bottling up how you feel is the exact opposite of healthy reaction to problems and obstacles. It's the exact opposite of every piece of advice that I'm going to give you.
Okay,
So-
and everyone, if you would pause this podcast, go get a pencil and paper, and then come back and start taking notes because he's about to throw out some life
Jesus,
lessons. I
Jack.
feel it.
Or Jesus, Josh, you think our people are Neanderthals? If they're listening to us,
Depends
they
on
probably
paper.
got like a computer in front of us right now.
Maybe,
Open up
or
Notepad.
if they have the brand new LG G8X ThinQ with dual screen, you can multitask, listen to a podcast, and take notes at the same time.
Ooh. Thank you to our sponsors.
That's right.
I wish.
But no, the same question to Josh. What is your first reaction to stress and obstacles?
Typically it's very hard for me to get stressed out. Once I kind of get to that point, normally it's on my mind running circles like crazy for a while until I can dissect the problem. When problems are big, they become overwhelming. But if I can kind of break them down into steps for me, I tend to be able to handle them a lot better. That's I guess my main thing with it is trying to handle things like one step at a time, one, phone call at a time, one, photo shoot at a time, or, whatever it may be, just little baby steps instead of going like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this giant problem that I have?
Okay. All right. But are you able to you're able to turn that into like problem solving then?
Yeah, generally so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like the last situation that I kind of had was September was a very slow month for me with photography. That all of my bills and everything like that and money, like I'm self-employed, so if I don't have photo shoots, I don't make any money. So like it started, every once in a while I would go like a couple days without getting a shoot or whatever. And this, I would have like a week or 2 weeks where I wasn't getting anything. And so it was like every night when I started falling asleep, I started like stressing out more and more. I started doing the math in my head. Okay, well, my money is going to last me this long because I have this bill coming up and this, and I was like, all right, why am I dealing with this? Like I'm laying in bed right now trying to go to sleep. Like I can't, like, I'm not making money right now. Like I can't make money before I wake up in the morning. So like I pushed it off to the morning, and then the morning I got up and I was like, all right, what is it that I need to do? I need to book more shoots. How do I do that? These are the ways that have generally got me more shoots. So I started focusing in that area. I joined a couple different networking groups on Facebook, and wrote out this little blurb about myself, connected my webpage to it, and started reaching out to different people and stuff like that. That got me a couple of shoots. Then all of a sudden business is starting to pick back up again. So that was kind of my process with everything.
Okay. Well, it seems like you had a pretty like healthy thought process. It wasn't even like being stressed about something is one thing, but like letting it really get to you is another, right? But it seems like you didn't really even let it progress to that.
And I may have underplayed it. I mean, there were multiple nights where I was going to bed and I was having to have serious conversations with myself about like, it's going to be okay. Like, stop freaking out. You're like, I would lose a couple hours of sleep a night just laying in bed and just doing math in my head.
Yeah.
And it was keeping me awake doing that. And so like there were multiple nights in a row that I had to kind of talk myself down off that ledge to be able to get some sleep. So, I mean, I didn't have to go into too much detail and make the conversation too long about it or anything. But yeah, I mean, it was bothering the hell out of me. But just kind of working steps towards it. Like even when I first started reaching out and making posts and stuff like that, you don't generally see an immediate return on things, but just doing the things that I knew I needed to be doing relieved a lot of stress for me. because I knew that I was at least putting in the work to get to the place that I needed to be in. When I wasn't really putting in the work, because like the first couple weeks of September, when things were going slow, I was just like, oh, well, pick up or whatever. I was using whatever excuse I had. And that's when I really started feeling guilty about it. But once I started actually putting in the extra work towards things, even though I didn't have another shoot that week or anything, I felt like I had done the work that I needed to do, that things would eventually turn around. And that's what helped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, it seems like a pretty healthy process, to be honest with you.
Thank
Just
you.
in general. Yeah.
I'm an old man. I have trial and error to get to the point that I'm at now.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess it's just if you want to like come all the way back around. So if we want to kind of talk about, I'm trying to think. So I always feel like, I mean, and maybe you're right. I always feel like I've had some sort of adversity, and then by no means this is like a pity party. Throw me a pity party and let's talk about all the issues that I've had.
But that's exactly what I want to do. I mean, not have the pity party, but I want to know every issue that you have, because I mean, that, like I said, the whole point of this is to show that, like, everyone is going through the same kind of crap, but we're all kind of dealing with it in our own ways, and some of us are progressing farther than others. And so if we could figure out a way to find the best methods to navigate through this kind of stuff, then hopefully we'll all level up together.
No, for sure. And I definitely got you. Go ahead, Luch.
And I mean, a lot of things that keep me sane are my wife and my cat. Like, without them, I'd come home and I'd pretty much be a wreck. All I would do is come home, play video games. I used to be the guy that would down like 2 liters of Mountain Dew. I would have my cooler next to me, and I would have my big jug. I would scoop up the ice, pour the Mountain Dew into there, drink out of that.
Clank the ice in the can.
Yeah, I'm a clanker, and yeah, I mean, without my wife and my cat, I mean, I would be pretty much insane by now. I mean, you guys keep me sane too, but sometimes you can be the stress in my life.
I feel you.
Pretty much. Got that. Definitely. But anyway, so why don't we go back to Josh, because I think you have a better idea of, I guess, the direction or the answers that you're looking for. So why don't you try to direct or try to ask the questions, and then I'll try to do my best to kind of go from there.
Well, yeah, because I think that Luch answered the question that I proposed earlier, but I would like to get because trying to figure out the best way to put it, but like what we were talking about with dealing with crap at work. At what point do you put your foot down about dealing with crap? Like, do you have, and I'm not talking about like customers, because customers, like, you're generally with a lot of that kind of stuff, customers always right. You tend to bend over backwards to make people happy and stuff. But there are other times where you can be taken advantage of by the company, by a boss or something like that, that you shouldn't be. That's not what you're getting paid for. You're not getting paid to get taken advantage of by your company or your boss. You're getting paid to maybe take a little shit from the customer or client to make them happy. We all do that no matter what business you're in. It's a give and take kind of situation.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Like, at what point when it comes to stuff from company bosses and that kind of thing, do you start standing up for yourself and go, hey, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, or I was promised this and I'm not getting that? Like, at what time do you start doing that stuff?
So that's a loaded question. I mean, to really answer it fully, I mean, so my work experience in the wireless industry, right? So I work in the wireless industry. I have for over 10 years now, in various different, forms in various different roles with different companies. And just speaking from in this line of work, worked for a lot of different companies, and every single one I started, you go in, you start at the bottom, you start as like an employee, a rep. and you're making the lowest amount of everybody there, and then you try to work your way up. You don't really most of the time you don't really deal with that I'm being stepped all over kind of thing as a lower level employee, right? Because normally the entry level reps are the ones that end up trying to take advantage of management. They're the ones that are calling off, and they're the ones that need exceptions, and they need this, and they're the ones that are like trying to get anything that they can to get off of work or get out. So like you don't really start to see that where you're being like taken advantage of until, and obviously there are exceptions, but you start to see that once you get into some sort of management. Once you start to be managing other people, but then you're also under somebody like an owner, a boss, that's really where you start to see, depending on that person's personality, you start to see, okay, maybe I'm doing part of their job too, right?
Yeah.
And so once you start seeing that, and it starts going down that path where you know that you're doing something that either you're overqualified for, not being paid for, or not being appreciated for, right? That's when that doubt starts to creep in, where you start to notice that, and then you start to be frustrated by it, and then it affects your mood, that affects your stress levels, that affects your personal life. So once that starts happening, you have to ask yourself two things. First, is there an end goal that makes it worth it, right? And then two, is confronting whatever the situation is it going to be beneficial or detrimental? So if the answer to the question one is there is an end goal, then the next tree question down is that end goal actually attainable or not, right? If the answer is yes, then the next question down is what's the timeline? Okay. So then you come to a conclusion of what's the time frame, and is that feasible? Is that a length of time that I can deal with this in order to get to the next step, right? The next plateau.
Yeah. So are you saying like you would set like a line in the sand, a date in the sand kind of thing, where you're like, okay,
sure,
I'd like to be able to do this by March 2020. If March 2020 comes up and you're not any closer to it, at that point you're like, all right, this was my line. I got to do something now.
Yes, exactly. So for instance, if the deal is you're taking all kinds of crap, and you're working extra hours and you're doing your boss's job, but the goal is you're going to have your boss's job in 6 months. If you just like keep kind of putting up with this, like, okay, is that an acceptable amount of time to you? If it is, then you put your head down and you, like Luch was saying, you power through it, right?
Yeah.
If it's too long from then maybe you go to the other side of the tree and you go, okay, does bringing up this issue that you're being taken advantage of or used, does that help me or hurt me?
Yeah.
Because if it helps you, then great, do it right then. But if there's a chance that it hurts you and it cancels out, your goal, right? The steps, then the answer is you either deal with it to get what you want, or if you're not going to get what you want and it's going to be detrimental if you speak up, it's time to move on. That's where you put your foot down and go, this is not going to be it for me.
Yeah, well, my question would be like, how would you know in that situation if it's going to be like, because if you're going to talk to, have a meeting with your boss and go, here's a problem that I have with something, how, you're not going to know ahead of time whether that's going to be detrimental or,
No, I think generally you do, right? Like especially when you're working for somebody and you're working with people, you generally know how they respond to things. Their tone, their attitude. You can tell how they're going to be if you go and say, hey, look, you're screwing me over here. Even if you do it professionally, this is where you can tell what kind of person somebody's going to be. And just so I can give a real life example, right? So this is more of what you were looking for, my real life examples of.
Oh yes, exactly.
This situation. So rewind all the way back to 2010. Right. So 2010, I was working for Sprint, but an indirect dealer in central Pennsylvania. They were a very small, independently owned, dealer, and they took advantage of me in a way of like, I was out the store all the time. I was dependable. I was reliable. I was a great salesperson. But they weren't making a lot of money. So they would make up excuse after excuse every month to not pay me out my full commission. Right. So I got fed up. I needed to make more money. I transferred to corporate. So I was transferring to corporate Sprint back in Pittsburgh. So I was moving back there. I got the job there. So quickly I was there, became one of the best top performing salespeople at corporate, moved up, became, the lead salesperson, etc. Fast forward another year. Now, I'm as like assistant manager, and now I'm trying to go out for the store manager spot. So we're now almost 2 years later, into 3 with corporate. Great track record. I've worked at 2 different stores by this point. I've managed, made schedules. I've done all of like the management thing. And there came a month where the store manager at the store that I was at was fired. Okay, was let go, and I was the assistant store manager. Now I wanted to become the store manager, but they brought in this hotshot salesperson from another state that used to be in the regional manager's district, blah, blah, blah. He was just this hotshot guy. He was a crazy seller. They brought him in to be the manager of the store, and he didn't last a month. Okay. because people that can sell aren't always good leaders, right? That's just not how it works.
Did he get fired or did he quit?
So what had happened was he had come all the way down from a salesperson to the management role. He was promised this, that, and the other, but he ended up, he wasn't selling, so he wasn't making commission, so he was taking a pay cut. So the whole month he was learning how to be a manager while I was doing the management job. So here's me, the assistant manager, doing the manager's job when I should have been given the manager's spot, right? So I did the management work for a month while he was there learning all the stuff, trying to get the store to sell. After a month, he said, I can't do this. I'm not a manager. And he went back to being a rep and moved back to Ohio. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is after a month. At the end of that month, I was like,
yeah. So now you're a shoo-in for the management position.
Right. Not only what was I ready before, but now they tried somebody else. I trained him. He didn't want to do it. He left. Now it's even more like I was just doing the job for a month. Like, all right, give it to me. Okay. So here I am. This is one of the first times where I kind of got the door slammed on me, and an example of exactly what you're talking about. So I had a conversation with the district manager about wanting it, and he kind of was just like, oh, yeah, whatever. I went out for it, did the interview process, everything. They gave it to somebody else from another store, brought them in, and that day that they decided that they were going to somebody else, the district manager came in, and he, we had a little chat. We went out in the back, and he looked at me in the face and he said, you just, from what I've seen and from what the rumor is around the district, you don't play well with others. I will never forget that till the day that I die.
Yeah.
This man looked at me and said, I don't play well with others.
Yeah.
And I was dumbfounded. And if you're talking about a line in the sand, when he said that to me, I knew right then that it was because I didn't agree with everything that he tried to implement. And he was the kind of person that if you bring something to him, it's not going to be helpful. It's going to be detrimental.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's where you go back to that question. So he was that person. And because I did that, because I would bring things to him and be like, this isn't working in our store. We need to do X, Y, Z, but it's not what he was trying to do. He took that as a personal offense, a personal attack, and he held that against me. So then when it came up to it and he said that to me, that was my line in the sand. That afternoon, I wrote up a resignation, and I said, for the past 2 years, I've been, one of the top performing people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Long story short, I don't deserve to be continually passed over. And I'm going to go, put my talent elsewhere.
Man, so we need a slow clap in the in the thing, boys. Because
I don't know. The only thing I have is so we're good.
No, because that makes me feel so good. Like hearing that kind of thing, and immediately just that big F you to just like no. That like I like that, the standing up for yourself and saying I'm not gonna take it, and making your decision to move on. So apparently because you did it that day, you didn't have anything else lined up, right?
Well, it's very, very funny and ironic, and life works mysteriously, whether it's, you believe you have faith, or you believe in fate, or,
Aliens,
any of those
or
things. Whatever it might be, whatever you believe, life works, in a funny way. Life finds a way, as it were. But the point is that it goes back to what I was saying about, the choices and the questions that come up, and you have to just decide. So like for the whole month prior, I was like, all right, I'm going to work extra. I'm going to work overtime. I'm going to be kind of like, I'm going to get taken advantage of this month because this person is getting paid more than me, but knows less than me. But I'm going to train him. I'm going to do my job because, when another store opens, like I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And then it happened. And then they said no. And I was like, okay, that was my line. That was it. Like I set myself and said, if this happens, then that's great. If it doesn't, then I'm out.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair to me. And I'm not going to sit in a rut just because somebody doesn't know how to be a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So funny enough, that day, I put my 2 weeks in or whatever it was. I started updating my resume. The very next day I got the call, and this was 2000 and I want to say 16.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 10, 12. I moved to Pittsburgh in 12, 13. I was with Sprint for 3 years. Yeah. So 2016, I put the 2 weeks in. The very next day I got a call from the recruiter with LG. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, there's a position opening right where you're at. And I ended up becoming the rep for the store that I left. Making more money than the manager at the store.
That's fantastic.
So that was, like, again, whether you believe fate, whatever you want to believe, just luck. That's the way that happened. And it only happened because I drew that line and I said, this stressful job that I have to drive 40 minutes to, because I lived kind of far away at the time, back and forth, and wasn't making that great of money, and all of these things that I was putting up with for the chance of making more, right? I put that line in the sand and said, this is as much as I can take. And at that point, you stand up for yourself or you fall back, and it doesn't matter. You're going to get steamrolled no matter what. If you don't set that line and then follow through on it, then there's no stopping any of that, because anytime something comes up, you're just going to be like, yeah, okay, pushover, right?
Yeah.
It's very stand for
easy
nothing,
to get in that pushover mindset when it comes to work and bosses and stuff like that. Because I think a lot of us, we get out of school, immediately go into a job. We don't really know how the whole job world works other than having conversations with friends. I mean, you could be going through all kinds of crap at work and think that it's completely normal because you've never really, seen anything else. There's no real, class on what job life is supposed to be like. You kind of see things from either the ways that your parents went through their job life or crap you see on TV or whatever. And until you get in and experience firsthand, you really don't know any of this kind of stuff. So that's why I'm glad that you're talking about it, is because I do think that the way that a lot of us learn this is by discussing it and shared experiences and everything.
Yeah. No, agreed. That's my first advice to Luch, though. I mean, you mentioned, where you're at when you're working 40 plus days, with minimal days off. I mean, there ultimately has to be a breaking point for your own sanity, your own safety, your own well-being, where you go, look, you are the company that I work for. You have to fix this. You have to find somebody to give me multiple days off a week, right? Like, or else, like, that's like, it's bottom line, that's not you. If you stand there and say, yeah, okay, this is the way it is and I accept it, that can only go on for a certain amount of time, and it has to be a certain amount of time. to where it's reasonable, and then you go, no, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to work 5 days a week. You're going to find somebody to work the store the other 2 days, or the store's going to be closed. Like, that's bottom line.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of safe work environment laws, state laws that protect an employee, right? Now, most states are at will states, so they can fire you for anything. But the bottom line is if they want to let you go for something that they have control over, then, then it's not the company that you want to work for. Like, ultimately, you can't just be the gum on somebody's shoe kind of thing.
Yeah.
In a situation like that. So that's my first advice to Luch.
Yeah. I mean, I think, where was I going with this? I think the big thing is making that decision. Like you said, the line in the sand, making the decision that something has to change from here on forward. I mean, that was like the way that I left, Allstate to get in doing real estate and photography was, I had been working with Allstate for 6+ years. And finally it got to the point where I just could not handle juggling that with trying to do the real estate thing. I'd had the conversation with him beforehand that I wanted to do both of them side by side. I thought that they were a good match together, being able to do homeowners insurance as well as selling homes. I was like, I could bring a lot of business between the two, different jobs and everything. And my boss just one day was like, no, you're going to have to choose one or the other. And I was like, all right, I'll put in my 2 weeks, because I didn't have anything lined up. Real estate, anyone that knows anything about real estate knows that, like, even best case scenario, if I sold a house that day, I would not get paid for nearly 45 days.
Yeah.
So I had nothing lined up. And I go back and I write my 2 weeks to tell him, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. He goes, oh, I don't need your 2 weeks. Go ahead and pack up your desk now. So I went from being employed with the same company for 6 years, making a very consistent paycheck, to there was no more paycheck coming, like, immediately. But that was, it was so crazy. I felt less stress from leaving. Like, I felt like a weight had been lifted off of me from leaving a crappy company, or a situation, more than I was. I mean, I got terrified the next day when I was like, oh my God, I have no job. I have no money, income, anything like that coming in. What on earth am I going to do? And, was able to turn things around and stuff, but it was taking a giant leap of faith. But I am so incredibly grateful that I was able. Very few times in my life have I had the balls to make big jumps like that, and that was one of them. And I can tell you, like, it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years since that, and I am so much in a better place right now than I was back then. It's
mentally,
it's
physically, all of that has such a huge impact on the rest of your life, the rest of your psyche. So again, just to go back to Luch, I encourage you to take a little bit more of a
it's getting
stand,
there.
I guess. Yeah,
it's getting there. Yeah, it's starting to reach its point. It starts to reach its point when they look at you and are like, so Lucha, we got a big problem at your store. We don't feel you're competent about. Why do you have so much overtime? I go, what do you mean? They're like, well, you're 23 hours overtime for the week. I go, yeah, I'm the only person at the store.
Yeah.
They're like, well, it's obviously your fault that you can't find someone to cover you. And it's just one of those moments that's like, ha.
I mean, but like, who's saying that to you?
Scott.
Okay, so all right. So this is a very prime example, because the person that you're speaking on, from what I know of this person, is the same kind of person as the DM that I dealt with and where I was, like the same personality type, right? Yeah. And unfortunately, the people that work for him and continue to work for him are on his team, as in like they're friends with him and they're the same personality type, or they are steamrolled and they will just sit there and take whatever BS he says because they need to have their job. And because of that, he will continue to be able to act that way and continue to be able to treat people that way because nobody will stand up to him and say, you know what? You're full of it.
Yeah.
Everything that comes out of your mouth is absolute BS. Everything. And nobody will say that to him, and it'll just continue. And it's like that cycle of he surrounds himself with the people that agree with him and cultivate that same BS. So it always just looks like, oh, well, we're all like that. So yeah, this is the way things run. Nobody else can get in. And it's just bottom line. But anyway, so moving forward a little bit as far as, obstacles and things go. I know that Josh, you had mentioned a couple of the things that had happened in the past year or so. So more recently, back earlier this year, there came a point where I was once again up for another promotion, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a painful process, and it was going to be the second time with this company that I was in the same place. And the first time I kind of was in that same situation. Maybe the first time I didn't know the right people, etc. So that was why I got passed over. But this time I had another line in the sand, 100%. It was another situation where I had put in the work. I had done my time. I had been taken advantage of a little bit, but not too much. But I had been built up by my boss, put in the place to step in. I had been trained and ready and all of that, right? And just ready to go. And it was a 2.5 month process of interviews, and I had to fly places, and I had to interview with all kinds of people, and it was stressful. And I had that talk with myself that was like, if I don't get the promotion, I'm 100% leaving. Yeah. 100%. Because you get to that place where once again, you can't, I couldn't physically be okay with myself if I got passed up when I knew that I was the right person for it. If they would have just made the wrong decision and just gone with somebody else for whatever reason, I'd have been like, okay, they made a mistake. They don't deserve to have me still working for them. I'm not going to be like, okay, that sucks. I'm going to keep trying. Yeah. Maybe if I wasn't the right person yet, or I was just hopeful for it, I was like, maybe I can get it. I'm going to go for it. Oh, darn, I didn't get it. All right, I'm going to keep working. It wasn't a situation like that, right? It was a situation of I am 100% the person for this job. There really isn't any other competition. The fact that it took so long was insulting because they were considering other people, right? Whereas I know, well, and it's just the thing is that there had been plenty of other times where, because of people's friends and the people that they knew, and that whole influence, positions had come up and people had just slid into it. They were pretty much guaranteed to get it right away. Yeah. Whereas this one, I felt like I literally had to convince everybody that I was the right fit. Right. Yeah. And then, so, luckily, or, again, whether you believe in fate or whatever, I did get it. Right. So that was awesome. Big sigh of relief. Great job. Pat on the back for me, because, I did work for it and I get it. However, I found out afterwards that the day that I was promoted and given the job, literally the night before, they had offered it to somebody else whose position had been removed. So I had gone through a 2.5 month process to try to get this job. And on the night before they made the decision, they offered it to somebody else that wasn't even in the interview process, but had offered it to her because her position had been removed within the program. And so they offered it to her hey, this didn't work out with you or your position's being eliminated. It's too bad, but we have this one that's open. So completely throwing out my 2.5 month process almost to offer it to somebody else that already had the job.
Maybe you don't play well with others.
Maybe I don't. No. No, but I mean, and luckily, that didn't work. But that's how close things are. And again, it goes back to, you have to stick with your format and your plan. You have to stick with the decisions that you set in your head and say, if this doesn't work, I'm doing this. If this happens, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. So what was it, of course, other than your personality, that made you have the confidence to walk into each interview and go, I am the absolute best man for this job? Like, what was it that, I mean, because, I mean, I've gone up for plenty of different interviews and I feel like that I'm good and I'm qualified, but at the same time, I don't know if I have ever been able to go like, I am the absolute best for this. Like, what was it that instilled you with that confidence?
Well, I mean, for this very simple fact, it was very, very easy, because I was literally going to be promoted to managing the team that I worked with. So I worked on the team, with the team, hand in hand with my boss, and he was promoted. So he was going to still be the boss of that person. So it literally was a lateral step for him, or an up step for him would have been an up step for me. I would have still been under him, but then over the team that I had just worked with. I knew everybody on the team. I had a working relationship with every single person, you know, just across the board, right? Just there from a foundational standpoint, like they couldn't bring somebody from across the country to do the job as good, even if they were qualified management wise, because they didn't know everybody. The market is so large. Florida is a huge state. We have the biggest team as far as people goes. It would have taken so long for everybody to get acclimated, or anyone to come in acclimated. I knew that if there was somebody that was an external candidate, which there ended up being an external candidate, and they were trying to get in, like they've never done the job, which means they're not going to get the respect of the people on the team because they've never done their job. Right? How are you going to tell me what to do? You've never done my job. Right? So I had so many.
You see that so often, though.
I have crazy. Of course you do, and it never works out. They don't have the respect. They're looked at like a clown because they're out there barking orders, and you're like, you don't even understand what I do on a daily basis because you've never done it. Why are you telling me what to do? And so I had all of these foundational blocks to step on to walk in and go, I'm not only qualified on my resume, management experience, personality wise, business acumen, all of these things. I'm not only, have this ammunition, but I also have this foundation of nobody knows this team better than me. Nobody knows the job better than me. I've already done it. I've succeeded at it. Now I'm going to take what I did and succeeded at, and then show everybody else how to do the same thing.
Yeah. And I think a big point there that I don't think you specifically said, but if you kind of read between the lines, a big part of the confidence came from the fact that you worked hard at your job to be good at it. And so because you were good at it, you had that confidence. But it initially started off with you working hard, being a good employee and doing what you needed to do. Because I can tell you, like, I have been both good employees and a bad employee in my time. There are times where I slacked off and did not do the work that I needed to do. And I can tell you, talking with a boss or a higher up when you've been dicking around a lot is a terrifying conversation.
Sure.
Because even if the conversation's about the local sports team, you're just like, oh God, please don't ask me my numbers. Please don't ask me my numbers. Please don't ask me, But then if you had a month where you kill it, where you worked hard, where it's like, yeah, fucking ask me my numbers. See how I did this month. I crushed it. Like that right there, knowing that you put in the work and did everything that you were supposed to do makes you feel so good inside that it exudes that confidence, that it's a huge thing that I don't want us to overlook.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, and there was definitely points during that time where like I had to have my own attitude check of like, wait a minute, what is my end goal? What am I working towards? There was a point when I first transferred and I had gotten passed over for the first promotion that I was just like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to mess around. Like, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm not going to get anywhere just like the last job. It's just going to be just like the last job all over again. Right. Yeah. So I had that mentality, and it was brief, and I talked myself out of it. And then I was like, wait a minute, or I can work really hard and get on the good side of my boss and the person that would put me into the place of getting promoted and become his like go-to person and, you know, the one that he can rely on whenever he's gone or doing XYZ. And that's what I did. Like I put in that work. I was the most reliable. I was the one that performed the best. Like, and when you get to that point where now you're taking that attitude and that work mentality and you're having somebody else speak for you and somebody else recommend you and somebody else vouch for you before anything else even happens. And that's a huge thing.
Friends in high places, man.
Right. And it is, it's all about who you know in the end. I had a lot of good words put in across the board, you know, and that helps, you know. A lot of people helped me out in that entire transition. But the moral of the story is always you have to be confident in the decisions that you make, even if those decisions end up being wrong. Because to make a decision wholeheartedly, like, and it ends up not working out is 100% better than kind of like doing something half-heartedly and like hoping it works and maybe it kind of does a little bit, but then like doesn't pan out or whatever. Like you have to go with it. Yeah. Because it just doesn't help you to be in the middle on the fence. Because I guarantee you, the people that are on the fence that'll sway back and forth, nobody trusts them because they don't know they don't know what team you're on. At least if you're the outspoken, like I'm going to stick my foot down and like, this is where it stops, this is as much as I can take. People know where you stand. They know how much crap they can give you before they get pushed back. Right? Yeah. They're the kind of people that are going to make it or break it. They're the ones that are going to move up or they're going to move on. Yeah. To something else.
Makes a lot of sense. And I know we've talked a lot about work. And that got deep and good. I really, really like that. What I would like to see more is in the everyday life of Jack, like, and maybe not every single day or every hour broken down or anything. I mean, but I am curious because, you know, you and I were talking about it. Would you consider yourself to be a busy person?
Yes, extremely.
Okay. Yeah. So you're an extremely busy person, yet on top of being an extremely busy person, you have now opened up a new YouTube channel, which I think we discussed on the podcast last week.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. Did we?
I can never remember.
On the Halloween
go ahead and give a quick 5-second synopsis.
Did we, Luch? Did we talk about it?
We did. But I brought it up as a joke. We talked about it for a couple seconds.
Oh, like a brief second. Yeah. No, yeah. This is. I mean, for anybody that is listening and that is even interested, I play golf a lot. And recently, with a buddy of mine, we started a YouTube channel. To help the average golfer and to have some fun and to provide some entertainment. And we just started it. It's called JSquared Golf. And you can find us on YouTube and Instagram under JSquared FSGA or the Florida State Golf Association, if you were wondering what that stands for. But yeah, JSquared Golf on YouTube. You can find it.
And how many videos do you have so far now?
3. We just uploaded
that you've put out today. Over the past how many weeks?
Week. Yeah, since last Monday. Week.
So 1 week. So because this is kind of what I wanted to get at with it. Was, and there's a couple of points to this, but I'll try to break them down. But the first one is I was asking you about the video editing with it, and you said that each video is taking about 8 hours to fully go from start to finish, breaking down the videos are 20 minutes long, approximately 20 minutes. Is that what they were?
The first one was, I think, 20 something. The second one was around 15. Today's, I think, was around 16. Yeah. So something like that.
So what I'm wondering is where you were able to get extra hours in your day to be able to accomplish this kind of stuff.
Everything that I do, literally everything that I do. And it's funny because now we actually, have a phone coming out that just encourages that, because literally it's a dual screen phone. It has 2 screens. You can literally do 2 things at once, multitasking. I can have, one thing up on one screen and the other on the other and literally use them both at the same time. It's just like my computer, right?
Yeah.
So I have two screens, do two things at once. I don't know how I would never go back to having less than two. Like one is just not enough. I would go up. I mean, I have other monitors. I just only have space on this desk for two, but I would probably even go to three just because like having more things open allows you to do more. It allows you to be more productive. Yes. So, now I have a phone that does the same thing. But honestly, that's all it is multitasking. I video edit while I'm, going through reporting or generating reporting for work. I video edit while I'm sitting here watching a movie or while I'm playing games. If I'm playing games and watching a movie, it's everything is done at the same time.
So you're still able to have the fun that you like to have, being able to watch things or chill out while also doing that at the same time.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So it doesn't take away from, my relaxation time or whatever that might be. It's work because it's hard. It's not hard, but it's tedious, right? Like video editing is very tedious for the people that don't understand or realize the work that goes into making a video. It's not easy and it does take effort. It takes work. It takes diligence, cutting and overlaying and creating graphics. And, it is a lot of work, but look, at the end of the day, everybody complains about not having time for things. And in reality, you have time for what's important to you. Bottom line,
priorities.
It is. I mean, you and Luch and Caleb, like over the past whatever month and a half since World of Warcraft Classic have come out, like you've prioritized that, so you put a lot of time into it, into playing and leveling and just in general, like we put a lot of time into things that if you really thought about it, if you prioritize a little bit more and manage your time a little more, you'd have a lot of time for other things. We waste a lot of time, right? We waste a lot of time doing things that aren't super important or relevant or beneficial. And before that like goes off down a rabbit hole, everything that you do that you enjoy is beneficial. Don't let anybody tell you anything other than that. Because if it makes you happy and it relaxes you and it de-stresses you and it takes you out of reality for a bit, it doesn't matter if you're literally just walking in a circle in a video game. If that's what makes you happy, then that's fine. But on the same side of that coin is everything in moderation, right? Like if you're deprioritizing things that are important to your health, to your family, to your work, your career, then no, it's probably not healthy. You probably need to cut back. You probably need to reprioritize, right?
Yeah.
But time management is ultimately just you arranging your day to do the things that are important to you and that you need to get done. Whether it's work and you're being paid for it, or whether it's your personal time. So right now, we have a podcast that we do and manage and put up every week. I have a YouTube channel now that I do and upload every week.
I mean, you're talking about just with the video editing alone, somewhere around 24 hours of editing over the past week and a half.
Yeah.
Like that's a big chunk that you were able to, if you think back to 2-3 weeks ago to go, do I have an extra 24 hours in my week that I can spend doing stuff? Just your initial reaction to that is surely like, what the hell? That's a lot of time.
It is,
but it's a lot for us to even sometimes go, do we have an hour and a half to sit down and do a podcast? It's like, how do we have time to do this?
Right. So we make time and we make it happen, right? We have the podcast. Now I have a YouTube channel. I work full time. I have a dog. I have a house, right? We have obviously our social lives, our friends. Like we put our time into the things that are important, and that's how we chop them up. We chop them up and say, this is the amount of time I'm going to spend doing this, and then I'm going to do that. Maybe I'm playing a game for a little bit, and I'm like, I have this amount of time, and then I have to stop, and I have to go do this so that I can leave the house at this, or et cetera. And so time management is huge for getting the things done that you need to do, but also really just it's really just not wasting time. Like I have 3 separate Instagrams, one for my personal Instagram, for my golf, and for the podcast. And I use all 3 of those. Right. Yeah. And in a week and a half, I've taken a brand new Instagram to over 100 followers in a week and a half. Now, when do I have time to do that if I'm spending all the time doing everything else? Yeah. Right. So it's if it's every little moment, right? It's every little second, every little side moment you spend networking, whatever it might be, right? In pursuit of whatever it is that you're passionate about.
Yeah. So is there anything currently that's been on your mind that I need to do this, but that you've procrastinated on or have given yourself the excuse that you don't have enough time?
No.
That's good.
No, and it's what's funny is that like I could probably fit more into it, but I play golf a lot, and that usually takes about 4 hours.
Yeah.
When I go to play. And I sometimes play twice a week. So that's another 8 hours right there that I could be putting somewhere else. But again, it also goes to my YouTube, and that's a hobby, and that's something I'm super passionate about. And like, I'm not going to change that.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like it helps you more with, like when you're wanting to fit in something during your day, do you schedule in time to work these extra hours on your hobbies and projects, or do you just try squeezing them in whenever you can fit them in?
No, you have to set aside time, or like at least plan it out and say like, okay, this if everything goes to plan, this is what I'm going to do. This is how like this is the way I'm going to spend the time. This is what I'm going to do. And
I'm the same exact way. Like if I don't, especially when it comes to stuff that I need to do, like if it's stuff that I want to do, it's generally hard to pull me away from doing something, because once I like get inspired or excited about something, I become obsessive and I will work on it. Or I'll throw everything else out the window until I finish that thing, because I get so into it.
Yeah.
But if it's something that I don't want to do, but I know I need to do because it's going to benefit me, I generally have to schedule that stuff in. Otherwise, I will procrastinate on it, keep pushing it off, rearrange things, whatever it may be, come up with excuses for it, But if I have it scheduled in, time blocked or something like that, I will normally get it done more often than not. Even with, something as small as, I have a pull-up bar that I really enjoy doing my pull-up bar. I always will do pull-ups like to the maximum that I can pull myself up every time before I hop in the shower. It does not matter. Like even if I don't do them the rest of the day, before I allow myself, I will turn on the water, get it, where it's warming up, getting to the right temperature. And while it's warming up, I hook my pull-up bar to the bathroom door, and I will sit there and I will do pull-ups till I can't do any more. Then I'll take the bar down and I'll hop in the shower. And I make sure that I do that every single time, because then even if the rest of the day goes to shit, I still did my pull-ups before my shower. I also make sure that I do the same thing with push-ups before I hop in the bed at night. I will every single night. You can ask, my kids are generally asleep, but if they were awake, or the ghost in my room, you can ask them that every single night before I get in bed, I will lay down on the ground and I will do my push-ups till my arms fall flat and I can't do anymore. And then I will get in bed. I refuse to get in bed until I've accomplished that little task. Because then I know every single day I at least have the pull-ups and I at least have the push-ups, even if everything else, I don't accomplish anything else workout-wise that day. I know I at least get that, because that's my tiny little time slot that I have scheduled in for myself.
That's as awesome as that is. Who gets into bed sweaty?
Well, I don't get sweaty off of doing like 30 or 40 push-ups. Like I
feel like I'd be sweaty.
No, like if you were to do like a full 10, 15 minute workout, but generally, I can max out my push-ups to where my arms can't do anymore less than a minute. Like I can't do a lot, you know. But it's almost like building this routine where it's okay. My routine is like brushing teeth before I get in bed. It's doing push-ups, and yours may not be that same kind of thing. With me, I don't get sweaty working out less than a minute. So, but if yours is something else, attach something that you want to do to something else. Where every time that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this with it. And you make sure that you get it done every day. I mean, there were times where I wanted to work out more, do more things, and I wasn't accomplishing it in the way that I wanted to do it. But I think that I've done pull-ups before showers and push-ups before bed almost every single day this entire year.
Yeah.
Just because I attach them to something. There may be a few times where I happen to forget busy or whatever, hop in the shower and go, oh crap, I was supposed to do that. And I'll try making them up that day or whatever. But for the most part, just because I attach them to something else, you won't forget. It's a routine now. Like I don't even think about it. I turn on the water, then do my pull-ups, then hop in the shower. And it's just like putting on deodorant or brushing my teeth, just because I tried to combine the two into a routine together.
No, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that's smart. I think that's good for, like you said, building a routine is awesome, especially when it's something that you need to get done or you want to feel accomplished with, that that you're otherwise going to find an excuse not to do.
I am so good at speaking to myself and convincing myself of things that are absolute horseshit, which is crazy because I know that I'm lying to myself. I know I'm lying to myself. And I will smooth talk the hell out of myself and be like, just do this and that. And then next thing I know, it's like, God damn it, you lied to me. It's like, well, yeah, what did you expect? Like I do this every day, that.
Why are you lying to me?
I have to set up a more rigid thing for me, but that's me personally. I am very much, I love taking the easy way out on things. Sometimes I can fall into that lazy mode. It's so easy that I have to almost trick myself into accomplishing the things that I need to get accomplished.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of transition more into, so back to, your obstacles and overcoming things that kind of like pop up, because you always ask me like, and you have asked me about the things that have kind of like popped up randomly, especially like, for instance, in the past month, my AC has gone out and now it's like back on, I got it fixed and I was working on it, and then it was just money that pops up, and these things that kind of just happen that kind of like really can throw wrenches in like your plans, right? Like in this case, money, it could be money. It could be just your long-term plans, your vacation plans. It could be, anything like that. It just throws off things maybe in your relationship, whatever happens, how do you deal with the obstacles in that way? Right. Like whenever it looks like there is no hope, I guess is the thing. Like whenever you're, like you were saying, you were trying to pinch pennies and do the math and, figure out how you were going to pay your bills and things like that. I, even as successful as I like to consider myself now, compared to, 5-10 years ago, whatever it might be, I still every single month have moments and days when I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. Sometimes you just you don't know, but you let that moment of weakness or that moment of doubt kind of pass through, and then you make a plan and you execute the plan. There's always a plan. There's always a way. There's always hope. There's always they always say hope isn't a strategy, right? That's not a plan, but there is something that sparks that strategy. There's something that sparks the plan of, this is how I'm going to make this better. This is how I'm going to fix this.
Yeah.
For me, like my AC went out and it could have been an $800-900 fix, but I went on YouTube and I found tutorials and I found issues of what it might be. And I did the troubleshooting myself, and I spent 4 hours, working on it myself, to the point where I got it narrowed down to, where the fix only cost me $300.
Nice.
Right. So
you stop throwing wrenches at it.
That was one of the things that fixed it. But the thing is that, that was great and it happened, but now it's happening again. And I'm like, man, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to throw another $300 at it? Is it going to be worse this time? Is it, am I going to need to drop even more and get a new unit? Like it's scary to think about, but you let that pass and you deal with it. Now I'm dealing with it right now by having my air turned up a little bit more. So now I'm not keeping the house as cool, which maybe is like not as comfortable for me, but that's a temporary solution, right?
Yeah.
That's how I'm dealing with it, because it still works fine. I just can't keep it super cold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you need AC?
Are
you one of those guys?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Here you need AC. I don't know about you, but you can't live in Florida without AC.
I love it so freaking hot. It's like a sauna. That's like my favorite temperature.
That's for your kids.
No. Listen, I'm all about the heat as well. I'm all about the heat. That's why I moved here. Moved here. But when it's 90 plus during the day and your house is like a little brick oven, right? And the heat is just baking it. It's not something that you just like, yeah, it's okay. Like you literally will get sick.
Dude, that just makes me think of a little Jack cookie.
It wouldn't be little. It would be big and messy. But the moral of the story here again is that there always has to be a plan. You let yourself have that moment of weakness of, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, how I'm going to pay for this, how I'm going to get around this, how I'm going to deal with this. And then you go, all right, never mind. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah. So how do you come to that? How do you not get overwhelmed by that big thing? Do you do like what I was talking about in the beginning, where you kind of try breaking it down into baby steps, or like what things need to be accomplished first, or how do you not be overwhelmed by a large problem dropping in your lap?
I mean, it's not easy, and it's not the same for every situation. Of course, it's hard because every problem is unique and every situation is its own and has its own challenges. But in order to not feel overwhelmed by it, you have to look at it in the bigger picture, in the grander scheme of things. It can always be worse, right? It can always be better. But when you look at it, it's a very small drop in the ocean of the other problems that you've had, the other issues that you've dealt with, the other times that you felt stressed, and definitely the other things that people are going through in the rest of the world, right? Like me, if I turn my AC down 3 degrees, like big whoop, like, first world problems, it's not that bad, right? Like it's really, it's okay. It's going to be all right. If it goes out and I like it was the first time it happened, it was out for 2 days. And I'm like, oh, boo-hoo, it's out for 2 days. Like, it's okay. I plugged in a couple fans, it was hot when I slept at night, but like, okay, I managed, I lived. So you look at it in the light of the rest of your life or the rest of the world and the rest of the things that are going on, and it really doesn't seem that big a deal. It really,
it's interesting because I think different people have to handle things different ways. I have a hard time doing that, processing it in the way that you talk about it. So that's why I like being able to hear the different perspectives on it, because like with me, I have a very hard time relating to things that are too far away or too outside my reach and stuff like that. Like I couldn't go, I'm uncomfortably hot. Well, man, I should think about those people that are living in Mexico in a stone hut or whatever that are sweating their balls off. Like I can't put myself in other people's shoes. I lack complete empathy in that way. Like it's not built inside me to be able to go like, they have it bad, so I need to be able to deal with it like that. Right. But I could understand that, for a lot of people, for probably normal people, that would work. I am incapable of kind of looking at things that way. But I like it, and I like it more instead of being able to do it, I guess, with other people, but looking at it in terms of other things that I've accomplished or that I've gone through. Like I've been through a lot of crap, that I could look at a problem and go like, oh, that was nothing. I remember the time, like me being stressed out about money, like last month, I still had a couple grand in the bank and I was getting stressed out. And and so I did think back to the time when I would literally owe multiple like bills money. Like I'd be past due on multiple bills. Rent was coming due. My paycheck, I had already spent it paying the last bill off. And I'm going through the change that was at the bottom of my car trying to find enough to pay for gas. And it's like, and I still managed to get out of that situation. Okay. That this kind of situation was not nearly as bad. Chill out kind of thing. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. But that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You look at it in the light of other things and you just go, okay, yeah, this isn't as bad. Or maybe you're dealing with something that is as bad. Maybe it's the worst thing that you've ever dealt with and it feels terrible. It's still like that's one thing for me is that like no matter the worst thing that you can go through, like tomorrow is still going to roll. Like tomorrow is still going to happen. Life is still going to happen. And you can choose how you face it. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be tough. And sometimes it's going to feel like you have no hope, right? There is just nothing. There's nothing to live for. There's not like you can be that low, but tomorrow still comes and you can choose to rise above it and literally drag every inch of you along with it, or you can choose to just sit there.
Yeah, I had another thing I wanted to bring up real quick, and then I want to get to Luch's method. But it's funny, my brother and I a while back, and I don't remember who started it. It was probably him, but we had basically this motto where we just always said it's not that bad. Like, and we did it in a joking way. That was like, no matter what happened, we would just go, "Oh, it's not that bad." And we said it so much as kind of a joke that it almost ingrained itself in us that
it's not that bad.
Crappy things would happen. It's not that bad. Didn't matter. Whatever. You break your leg, it's not that bad. Like, it could be way worse. But we said it so much. I mean, like 10, 20 times a day. Like, it was just a running inside joke with us to say it's not that bad with just every single thing. Then I think that's a big part of the reason that I have super, super low stress levels. Whenever I run like those tests or whatever, and who knows how accurate, phones are and the Android fitness things or whatever. But my stress levels are typically super, super freaking low. And I think it's because we went years with every single problem we ever had. It's not that bad.
Not that bad.
It's weird, but like just reaffirming that with yourself of it's not that bad. In other words, it could be much, much, much worse. But even if it is much, much, much worse, it's not that bad. Like
it's not.
Whatever the situation is, no matter how absolutely terrible it is, it's not that bad. Like
it's not.
It's just not. So, Luch, do you have a go-to method other than cathartic yelling at other cars on the road or video games or whatever?
I just dedicate myself to my hobbies. So, I mean, I like video games. I like anime, I like all kinds of stuff. And, my wife and my cat, they get me going. I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm a pretty simple guy. With a fucked up brain.
No, I think that is a good point. It's just being able to find happiness in just little simple things and being able to wash off stuff that, people sometimes I think overlook that kind of stuff. That they run into a problem that's big and they think that they need big solutions to it. Or sometimes no, it's just something small and simple can help you regain your sanity.
No, really. I mean, and 100%. I mean, I understand, Luch, where you're coming from there, and that just dive into the things that you like and kind of block it away. However, I kind of want to wrap things up or come full circle to the first thing that I said. Whenever I was like, well, that's going to be the opposite of the advice that I give you, right? So, unfortunately, when it comes to dealing with problems with issues from like a mental standpoint, right? It very, very rarely is beneficial to you or the person that's involved or the people that are involved in the issue that you're stressed about to not confront them about it. Very, very rarely. Sometimes it's okay not to because it wouldn't help the situation. But most of the time, if somebody makes you angry, they either did it on purpose and they need to be told about it because they shouldn't act that way as a human being, or they did it without knowing, right? So either one of those situations, they need to be told about it.
Needs to be discussed.
One, because they shouldn't be able to act a certain way unchecked, because way too many people like that exist in the world, right? Though, like I can be driving down the street, and I'm not like I've been in the car with a lot of different people, guys and girls, and I can, like Luch, have a moment of like somebody's an idiot, and I can get angry and beep at them. And most of the time, the people in the car go, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He's just stupid." Right? Or they like the anti-confrontational person would rather just let it go, let the person be dumb, right?
Yeah.
Just let it happen, because it's like we don't want a conflict. You don't know that guy could have a gun. He can do this. Yeah, he could. Or he could also just be that kind of person, and he gets away with it on a daily basis because nobody's big enough to stand up to him and say, you're an actual moron. Like, you are endangering people on a daily basis because you think that you're better than everybody else, right? And so if it's that kind of person, somebody has to do it. And I've always been the person who's like, look, if nobody's going to say something, I'm going to say something, right? Like, I'm going to be the person that's going to do it. Yep. Because I'm just saying what everyone here is thinking, and nobody has the guts to say it, but you need to know about it.
This is why I keep you around, because I'm so anti-confrontational.
Right.
That, like, I need these kind of pep talks every once in a while, because it makes me makes me grow a little bit. Because
every video
oh my gosh, it's so hard for me to, like, just the thought of confronting somebody on any situation makes my stomach turn upside down.
But that's the problem.
It's crazy.
It's a very we have a very, very anti-confrontational society where, like, somebody can be being beat up in the street, and everybody will just film instead of step in and help the guy or say something or stop the person doing it. They'll film it, put it on YouTube, be like, I can't believe this was happening. It's like, I can't believe you were there and didn't stop it. This is why people get away with things on a daily basis. They do what they want because nobody will say, hey, that's wrong. Stop doing that. Mm-hmm. Right? And then the person that does will end up going to jail for assault because he stepped up and helped the person or stepped in to stop the person. Yeah. And that's why people are timid and be like, oh, I'm not going to get in trouble for doing this. Right? So you have that person that needs to be told about it, but then you also have the other person that didn't know that they made you angry or stressed or presented this problem to you, and they're just going about their day like no big deal, and they don't even know that they made you angry.
Yeah.
Right? So in that case, they need to be told so that they don't do it again, so that they can go, oh, wow, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that made you feel that type of way. I'm sorry. Or they say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that made you feel that way. That's not how I meant it at all. Like, you shouldn't have even taken offense to it or been angry at it, because that's not what I meant to say or how I meant to say it.
So where do you find the line between stepping up with something like that and expressing how you're feeling and just being a whiny bitch? Because I mean, do you know what I'm saying with it? Like, because if every time that something hurt your feelings or, whatever.
No, it's not something about that hurt my feelings. We're literally talking about obstacles and stress in your life, right? Like points of stress. I mean, obviously, first of all, if everything hurts your feelings, you probably just need to grow a pair, get some thicker skin, because not everything is directed at you and not everything is offensive.
That's some mighty big words.
It's true. It's not everything is offensive. Not everything is out there in the world to be offended by.
Yeah.
If somebody says XYZ, that doesn't mean you go, oh my God, what you said makes me offended. I'm going to
much more of
boycott
an
your thing.
ABC kind of guy.
Yeah, like nobody cares. Like that's, I don't know. Yeah, we live in a culture of everything is offensive. Everybody's in trouble for everything, and then nobody wants to do anything. There's just, everything's just, I don't know. We should just go back to being the wild, wild west.
It's crazy. And that's definitely a topic for another night.
Yes, for sure. But anyways, no, the moral of my story is, or of what I was saying is, you shouldn't hold how you feel inside when it comes to obstacles and things that are standing in your way. You should stand up for yourself, take a stand for what you believe in, no matter what. Literally, no matter what. There are things that we haven't talked about on the podcast that I think are true, that if I was vocal about them, people would laugh. I would have people, because I read the news and I'm online, and there are things that I think aren't crazy that people go, if you think ABC, you have to have an IQ of under 10.
Yeah.
There's no way you can be a functional human and believe this. And I'm like, that's weird, because here is my IQ and I believe that. So where does that leave us?
Yeah.
What other people think, or how other people choose to be, or their personality, or how they're going to react to things, should not influence what you take a stand for and what you choose to do to overcome your own problems and your own obstacles. Like, you shouldn't just get rolled over by a boulder because somebody else might be angry if you stood up for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't have said any of that better myself.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
That's why I wanted to have this. And so everyone, if you were taking good notes and you put all of these little life lessons into practice, you too could become as cool as Jack one day.
If only. Can we even achieve such greatness?
He just gave you the step-by-step guidelines to being as cool as him. The problem is, most people do not have the balls to do that. I can say that because I am one of those people. I seriously, like I said, that's one of those things. Confrontational situations are a big obstacle for me. Most of the time, I don't have to deal with them. And for whatever reasons, that's something that we can discuss at a much later time. But,
sure.
I've been able to kind of navigate and build my life in a certain way that I don't have to deal with that kind of stuff much. But yeah, that's one of those things that if there was one area that I could really work on fixing, it would be that area.
Well, there you go. Now you have homework.
Next time you'll be as cool as Jack someday.
Next time you're out and about and you see somebody treating somebody else poorly, do the right thing. Step in and say, "Hey, stop. Get some help."
I like it.
Stop. Get help.
Get some help. Anyways, that's going to wrap up level 44 of the bonus level podcast. The final boss of level 44 was the deafening silence coming out of Team Luch for the self-help discussion, as he just took it all in, took notes, is going to apply it to his life, and we're going to follow up with him afterwards.
Yeah, I think he was working on a PDF during this episode, so that way he can have that ready for you guys.
Yes,
absolutely. I was actually working on typing out the entire conversation. And I'm going to make a book out of it and sell it and not give Jack any of the profits.
Thank you. Awesome. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the episode, even though I talked through most of it. And if you unsubscribed, I understand, and that's not going to be an obstacle for us.
But I will confront you.
and Luch will just sit in silence at you.
Anyways, awkwardly.
Anyways, we hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next week for level 45. Have a great week.
Later, taters.